Hey guys, tonight I want to tell you something that's been sitting in my chest for years. It's 1:13 a.m. right now. The glow of my phone screen is the only light in the room, and it's bouncing off the half-empty mug of tea I forgot to reheat an hour ago. My apartment's quiet. Too quiet. Honestly, and I can hear the neighbor's wind chime tapping against the railing outside like it's trying to start a conversation I'm not ready for. I've just seen his post. Again, he's smiling in this one. Something about coffee and early morning vibes. His captions always read like he's talking to someone, but I know for a fact it's not me. I haven't heard his voice in nearly 3 years, and yet I know that smile. It's the one he'd flash when he was trying to act like things were fine. It's too wide. Doesn't quite reach his eyes. But I doubt anyone else notices. They just double tap and move on. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love seeing that. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let me take you into the heart of it all. Every morning without fail, I wake up, make coffee, ignore the mountain of dishes in the sink, and scroll, just like anyone else. And every morning, his face is there, on my feed, like clockwork. His posts are always polished, always upbeat, always so him. Hashtags about mindfulness, peace, early rising, balance. You'd think he runs a meditation retreat or something now. But I know he's not the balance type. He never was. He's the guy who once tried to microwave frozen chicken with the foil still on it. Twice. There's something deeply unfair about someone who walked out of your life so cleanly, still occupying your screen, like he has a monthly content contract with your memories. I haven't unfollowed him. I tell myself it's because I don't want to be petty, that it's easier to just not engage. But if I'm being honest with you, and I guess that's the whole point, tonight I don't unfollow him because a part of me still wants to be in the loop, still wants to see some sign that he misses me, that the absence I feel isn't one-sided. That somewhere, maybe, he's posting with me in mind. There was this photo last winter, him at the lake we used to drive to at 2 a.m. back in college. It was just a landscape shot, no people, just water and moonlight and that little tree that leans sideways near the dock. He didn't tag anyone, didn't write anything poetic, just still here. That was the caption. 2 words that somehow hit me harder than anything he'd ever said to my face. I stared at that post for 20 minutes. I even started typing a comment. Still beautiful. Backspaced. You always loved that place. Backspaced again. Miss you. Deleted that too. Eventually. I just locked my phone and stared at the ceiling until the tea beside me went cold. Again. You know what's weird? You never realize how many memories are linked to someone until you start avoiding them. Now, every little thing, every Spotify playlist I skip over, every inside joke that floats through my head when no one else would get it, it all leads back to him. And the worst part, he's still alive, still well, still posting. It's not grief. It's not death. It's just distance. Chosen distance on his end. And that's the kind of loss no one teaches you how to mourn. I met Jordan in a library of all places, not the cool, dimly lit kind with spiral staircases and whispered secrets. No. This was a fluorescent lit campus library with wobbly desks and the faint smell of instant noodles clinging to the air. He dropped his books. I made a joke. He laughed louder than necessary. And I remember thinking, who is this guy who laughs like he has nothing to hide? Turns out, he did have things to hide, but we all do. Back then, I was still working part-time in the Student Writing Center, 20 hours a week, helping panicked undergrads fix their thesis statements before deadlines they pretended not to know about. Jordan wasn't a client. He was a philosophy major, so we always joked that nothing he wrote had a clear argument anyway. We started talking over vending machines and bad cafeteria burritos. Then it turned into late-night walks and the kind of conversations you only have when you're young and think everything you feel is the most important thing anyone's ever felt. He asked questions that made me pause. Not just, what's your favorite movie? But, what scene do you secretly rewind when no one's looking? That kind of thing. He was funny without trying, charming without being slick, and completely unprepared for how much space he would end up taking in my life. The first time I realized I was in love with him, he was standing on my balcony with a toothbrush in his mouth, wearing mismatched socks and humming some song from the 90s like it was a Grammy contender. I didn't say anything out loud. I just watched him from the kitchen, pretending to be busy with the kettle. Funny, isn't it? How you can know something that deeply, that certainly, and still keep it to yourself. Like saying it out loud might shatter the whole thing. I think we spent a whole year in that weird, in-between space more than friends. Less than anything anyone else could label. People asked. We deflected. He'd grin and say, "We're just writing a very long essay together." And I'd laugh, even though part of me wanted to scream, then publish it already. I used to imagine what it would be like if we just took that step, said the words, made it real. I pictured weekend trips, shared groceries, toothbrushes next to each other like quiet promises. But we never did. Not really. Because when you're young and unsure, silence feels safer than honesty. And besides, we had time. Or so I thought. There's one night I remember it so clearly, I could draw it from memory. Rain tapping the windows. Some indie playlist humming through my laptop speakers. Jordan sat cross-legged on my bed, scrolling through his phone while I read something for class. And out of nowhere, he said, "You ever feel like we're in a story someone else is writing?" I looked up. Like fate. He shook his head. No. Like we're characters who don't get to choose the ending. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. I just smiled. And he smiled back. And then he went back to scrolling. And I went back to pretending that everything was fine. It wasn't. Though, I think we both knew that something was creeping in between us. Quietly, slowly, like a draft under the door you don't notice until your toes go numb. That night was the beginning of the unraveling. But of course, I didn't realize it until much later. Until the day he stopped coming around. The day the texts got shorter, the laughs less frequent. But back then, I still thought we were invincible. That nothing so solid, so intertwined, could dissolve. Turns out, people aren't buildings. They don't need earthquakes to fall apart. Sometimes all it takes is silence and someone choosing not to reply. I think the real decline started with the coffee mug. It sounds stupid. I know. But isn't it always something small that gives it away? You look back, trying to pinpoint when things shifted, and all you can remember is a chipped ceramic cup on the windowsill that never moved again. Jordan had a favorite mug, pale blue, a little dented at the rim, with the words, "Existence is optional" in fading font. It was absurd. It was very him. He left it at my place like it belonged there. And then 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe 3, I stopped seeing him. But the mug, still there, like a ghost of mornings that used to begin with shared silence and bad instant coffee. At first, I made excuses. He's busy. He's stressed. Maybe he's visiting family. I even texted him a picture of the mug, adding a dumb little, "Your cup misses you." No reply. I remember standing in the kitchen, mug in one hand, phone in the other, trying to laugh it off. I told myself I wasn't the kind of person who overanalyzed texts or the lack of them. But the truth was, I had already started rationing my hope. You know that part in your chest that tightens just a little every time the phone lights up. That's where I was living. Constant tension, masked as indifference. Then came the real sign. A mutual friend, Sarah, mentioned she'd seen Jordan with someone else, not in a gossipy way, just in passing. "Oh, he was with that girl. What's her name at the poetry thing last weekend?" I nodded, said nothing. But inside, it was like the ground dipped, like I'd taken a step expecting solid floor and found only air. I didn't ask questions, didn't text him after that, just went home, poured myself some whiskey I didn't even like, and sat on the floor like a cliche. The mug was still on the windowsill, still unwashed, still loyal. Isn't that something? An object can stay faithful longer than a person. I didn't cry. Not right then. Crying would have made it real. And I wasn't ready. I just sat there, one sock on, hair in a mess, thinking about all the times we could have had the conversation but didn't. All the times we skirted around words that mattered. I wanted him to explain, but more than that, I wanted him to want to explain, and he didn't. That was the part that hurt most. Not the absence, not even the possible someone else, just the indifference, the quiet decision to let me fade out like background noise. So I started collecting silences, the unreturned calls, the maybe laters that never became nows, the online statuses that glowed without ever leading to a message. Some nights, I'd check his socials not to stalk, I swear, just to see, to confirm that he still existed somewhere, that I hadn't imagined him entirely. He posted selfies, song lyrics, dumb memes. A picture of a sunrise with the caption, "New day, same soul." I stared at that one for a long time, wondering what it meant, wondering who took the photo, and still, I didn't text. Still, I clung to some warped pride, or maybe fear. Fear that if I reached out and he didn't answer, the final thread would snap. At least this way. I could pretend the silence had meaning. So, like an idiot, I held on to the mug. I stopped using it, though, just let it sit there, a placeholder, a memory on ceramic. It's funny how you can miss someone who's technically still alive, still walking around, still a DM away. The world doesn't prepare you for that kind of grief. It's not loud. It's not acknowledged. It's just a slow bleed. An ache that doesn't warrant flowers or condolences. Some nights, I'd catch myself talking out loud, like he was still around. "You'd hate this movie." I'd mutter to the empty couch. Or "Shut up, Jordan." When I dropped my phone and heard his voice in my head mocking me, I started to feel like a badly written character, one whose arc had been abandoned halfway through. And yet, some part of me kept hoping that maybe one day he'd knock, say he was sorry, say he missed me, ask about the mug. But that knock never came. I finally moved the mug. It had been sitting on the windowsill for months by that point, and dust had gathered in its lip like some kind of cruel metaphor. I didn't throw it away. Of course I didn't. I just placed it on the top shelf of the kitchen cabinet. The shelf I never reach unless I'm hunting for Christmas mugs or that one chipped bowl I can't bring myself to toss. And in that moment, something cracked. Not loudly, not like glass breaking, just a small internal shift. Like when you realize you've been holding your breath for too long and finally let it go. I didn't text him. I didn't block him either. If that's what you're wondering, I kept him there, floating in digital purgatory, like a contact ghost. You know, the kind, someone who lives in your phone but not in your life, just close enough to haunt you with a green dot and the occasional story post. But the thing is, I started getting better at pretending I didn't notice. That was around the time my friends tried dragging me out again. I went to a rooftop party I didn't want to be at, wearing a shirt I didn't really like, sipping a drink that was too sweet. Someone asked me what I did for fun, and I said, I collect receipts from places I don't want to remember. That got a laugh. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm funnier when I'm broken. I danced a little that night, just enough to sweat through the shirt, just enough to feel slightly alive. And on the walk home, around 100 a.m., I didn't check my phone once. That felt like a win. But then, 2 days later, of course, he messaged me. Not a long message, not even a hey. How are you? Just you still have my mug? I stared at it for a good minute, maybe more. The audacity of that sentence. After everything. After silence so long it had roots. And yet, something fluttered. I typed yeah, then I deleted it. I typed again. Funny that you remember now. Deleted that too. Eventually, I sent nothing. I let the message sit there, marked as read, unanswered, like he had done to me a dozen times. Maybe it was petty. Maybe it was self-preservation. At that point, I couldn't tell the difference. What I did do, what I actually did, was take the mug down from the cabinet the next morning. I made coffee in it. Instant. Bad. Just like before. And I drank it slowly, standing barefoot by the kitchen window, like I was reclaiming something. It didn't taste better. If anything, it was lukewarm and a little bitter. But I didn't cry. I didn't crumble. I just was, There's a moment in every almost relationship where you realize it's not going to turn into a real one. And sometimes that moment doesn't come with a fight or a betrayal. Sometimes it comes with a coffee mug, a text message, and a silence that answers every question you were too scared to ask. I thought I'd be angry. I wanted to be, but I wasn't. I was just tired. Tired of trying to read between lines that didn't exist. Tired of hoping someone would show up just because you wanted them to. Tired of building shrines to people who never once brought you flowers. So I made a rule for myself. No more imaginary conversations. No more checking his socials. No more looking at strangers on the street and wondering if they looked like her, the girl from the poetry night. I'd like to tell you, I followed that rule perfectly. I didn't. Some nights I broke it in 5 minutes flat. Some nights I held on for a week. But rules aren't promises. They're just tools. And tools are meant to help you build something. Even if it's just the frame of a better version of yourself. So that's what I tried to do. Build something. Not a new relationship. Not yet. Just a new morning routine. A new playlist. A new joke to tell the barista who never remembered my name. It's funny. He used to call me by a nickname no one else knew. And for a while, I hated that. I hated that it made me feel special. Because special doesn't mean safe. Special just means you'll miss it more. Now, when someone uses my actual name, it almost feels like a compliment. There's healing in that. Not fireworks, not epiphanies, just quiet, mundane healing. A mug in your hand, a message you didn't answer, a sunrise you didn't photograph, a version of you that keeps going anyway. I started deleting photos, not all at once, and not dramatically. I didn't sit on the floor with wine and sad music playing in the background like some indie movie cliche. It happened gradually, one at a time. Like I was peeling him off my timeline the same way he peeled himself out of my life quietly, without explanation. The first to go was the one of us in the photo booth. You couldn't see much, just our eyes and a lot of blur. But I remembered that day too clearly. We ducked into the booth just to escape the rain. He'd kissed my cheek right before the shutter clicked, and I'd looked surprised. The photo captured the moment better than the memory itself. And still, delete. Then the one of his hand holding mine across a table at that noodle place. The lighting was terrible, and my thumb looked weird, but it was my favorite at one point. I stared at it for a few minutes before letting it go. I told myself, it's just data. But we both know it wasn't. There's a strange intimacy in letting go of someone's digital ghost. You erase a picture, and yet the moment still exists, just without proof, like it happened in a dream. Maybe that's what most relationships become. Dreams we carry awake, wondering if they ever really happened the way we remember. The funny thing is, I kept the one of the pigeon. Yeah, that one. It was the stupid moment when a pigeon landed right on his shoulder while we were eating outside. He panicked, and I caught it mid-flail, his face frozen in comedic horror. I laughed so hard I dropped my phone. That photo, I couldn't delete it. Not because of him, but because of the laugh. I missed that laugh. Mine, not his. And maybe that's when I realized I wasn't grieving him anymore. I was grieving me. The me who laughed like that. The me who believed someone texting good morning meant they meant it. The me who hadn't yet learned that sometimes people only stay for the part of you that makes them feel whole, not the parts that need holding. One night, maybe 3 months post-final message, I was cleaning the apartment, vacuuming under the couch. I found an old hoodie of his. I held it up like I was expecting it to talk to me. It didn't. Of course, it just smelled faintly of dust and eucalyptus detergent. I washed it, not to keep it, but to give it back. And that's when it hit me. He never gave me an address. In all that time, all those months, he never once offered a way back in. Even practically, even politely. So I folded the hoodie neatly, put it in a brown paper bag, and wrote "Return to Sender" on the front in thick black ink. There was no address, no sender, but something about the act felt ceremonial. I left it on the bench near his old subway stop, not because I thought he'd find it, but because I would know I left it, that it was out of my hands, that I had returned what was never really mine to begin with. Grief, I've found, is not always about death. Sometimes it's about presence, the continued haunting of someone still alive, still out there, still breathing and posting and living and doing it all without you. And here's the thing, they don't tell you, it's not always the heartbreak that breaks you. Sometimes it's the silence that follows, the way life keeps moving, the way you learn to smile for photos again. But your smile is just a tiny bit off, like you're still calibrating to life post someone. I remember my neighbor once asked if I had a new roommate because I wasn't playing sad music at night anymore. I laughed and said, nope, just upgraded my coping mechanisms. She didn't know what to say. I didn't expect her to, but it was the truth. I started playing jazz instead. Not the moody kind, the messy, chaotic kind that fills a room like conversation. It helped. It didn't fix me, but it helped. And sometimes I still scroll back to the message. You still have my mug. It's still there. I haven't deleted it. Not because I'm hoping he'll write again. I think I just like seeing it there. A reminder that he reached out, just not far enough. A digital scar. And I think I'm okay with scars. Scars mean healing happened. Even if it took longer than I wanted. Even if I'm still not done. The mug. You'd think it was just some dumb mug. Right? White ceramic. Tiny crack on the handle. Little cartoon bear on the front, holding a fishing rod and smiling like he knew something I didn't. But that thing saw more 3 a.m.s than any person in my life. It was his. He brought it over the first night. He stayed longer than expected. Said the mugs I had were too thin, untrustworthy. He called them like they were conspiring to burn his hands. I laughed then, called him dramatic. He kissed my forehead and said, "You'll thank me someday." I guess I do now. For the mug, if not the man. It became a fixture. That mug outlasted weekend sleep-ins, half-watched Netflix series, a brief, tragic attempt at baking croissants from scratch, and one really stupid fight about dish soap that spiraled into something neither of us could name. It outlasted him walking out, outlasted the silence that came after, and it definitely outlasted the message. "You still have my mug. Do I have it?" "Yeah, I do." And I think the reason I never texted back is because I didn't want to give him that mug. Or more honestly, I didn't want to give him me again. Wrapped in that mug. That silent permission to come back in through a side door. Because that's what it felt like. Not a real check-in. Not, "Hey, I miss you." Or, "Can we talk?" Just a casual, cowardly lifeline. Tossed out to see if I'd pull. And I almost did. I sat there, thumbs over my phone, thinking, what if I just said yes? What if I made a joke? Like, "Only if you promise to stop ghosting me like a Halloween decoration." What if we pretended none of the silence happened and just rewound? But that's the thing. I didn't want to rewind. I wanted recognition. I wanted a message that said I messed up. "I miss you. I'm sorry." I didn't want to be the convenient person he remembered when his tea didn't taste the same in someone else's cup. So the mug stayed. Sometimes I use it. I don't cry into it or anything. It's not that melodramatic, but I notice it. I think of him. I sip slowly, and I let it be what it is, a vessel for something warm, something temporary, something that leaves a ring if you forget to rinse it out. You know what's wild. A part of me still checks his socials. Not obsessively. Not to hurt myself, but more like someone checking the weather before going outside. I want to know what version of him the world's getting now. If he's grown, if he's loving someone better, if he's still hiding behind emojis and cryptic captions. He posts motivational quotes now. Stuff about strength and healing and forgiveness. I used to roll my eyes. Now I just scroll past. I don't double tap. I don't linger. But I see it. I note the tone. I wonder if he's talking to himself, or if some poor girl is out there clinging to his words like they mean more than they do. God, I hope not, because healing should be honest. And I don't think he ever learned that. Or maybe he just wasn't ready to learn it with me. One time, about 6 months in, I ran into someone who knew him. Mutual friend. Casual circle. They asked how I was doing since the breakup. That word hit weird. Breakup. As if there was a mutual decision, a sit down, a finale. There wasn't. There was a mug, a message, and a vanishing act. Still, I said, I'm better, and worse, but mostly better. They nodded. Told me he asked about me once. Said I look happy in pictures. I didn't ask what else he said. I didn't want to know. And some doors are better left closed. Not because what's behind them is scary, but because you've spent too long rebuilding the lock. And you know what? I think that's the hardest part. Not the leaving, the almosts. The mug, the message, the memory of a hand reaching for yours in the middle of a movie you've both already forgotten. That in-between ache of someone who once knew your toothpaste brand and now doesn't even know what street you live on. I don't need to hate him to move on. I just need to let the mug be a mug again. And I'm getting there. There's this little ritual I have now. Every Sunday morning, I take a walk to the coffee shop down the street, the one with the chipped blue paint on the windows, and the barista who always forgets my name but never my order. I bring a book I never actually read, sit on the bench out front, and just watch. It's become a quiet kind of meditation, like I'm learning how to sit with my own company again without immediately reaching for distraction. No scrolling, no texting, no messaging X's about lost mugs. Just me and the uneven rhythm of my thoughts. And last Sunday, as I was sipping my coffee and pretending to read the same dog-eared page for the 5th time, I saw a couple walking past. They were laughing. He had this ridiculous pink beanie on, and she kept trying to tug it down over his eyes. They looked stupidly in sync, and I smiled, truly, but not because I missed that. I smiled because for the first time, I didn't picture us when I saw them. That used to be a thing. You know, every happy couple in public felt like a slow punch to the gut. I'd see someone brush hair from their partner's face and remember how he used to do that to me, always with 2 fingers. Always with that crooked half smile, like he didn't quite believe I was real. I'd carry those flashbacks like bricks in my coat, but not anymore. Now, I let other people be happy without turning their joy into my grief. It's a subtle shift, but it feels massive. I think healing happens like that, not in big cinematic declarations, but in these unnoticed, boring little moments. Not texting him back, not checking his likes, not reacting when his name comes up in conversation, just letting the silence be. Still, there are things I miss. Not him, per se, but the way it felt to have someone know me. Like, really know me. Know how I organize my fridge by height and color. Know I can't sleep unless the door is closed, even if it's just me in the apartment. Know that I have to dry off completely before stepping out of the shower, or I feel weirdly exposed. He knew those things, and sometimes I wonder who knows them now. But then, sometimes I also remember I still know those things about me. And maybe, for now, that's enough. There's a sock in my drawer he left behind. Just one. Striped, navy and gray, the toe unraveling. It's buried under mismatched pairs. I swear I'll sort someday. Every few weeks I find it, hold it, consider tossing it, and then put it back. Not out of sentiment, but out of, I don't know, familiarity, it's like. Part of me thinks throwing it away means admitting how deep he once lived in my life. And maybe part of me still wants to pretend it was all lighter than it really was. But I think that's starting to shift too. I'm not scared of the heavy anymore. Not scared of the truth of how much I felt, how deeply I lost, or how long it took me to even admit that I didn't get over it the first 10 times I said I did. One of my coworkers asked me recently if I was dating again. I told her, sort of, which is code for I'm trying. I've had a few coffees, one dinner, one terrible karaoke night. Nothing serious, nothing story-worthy. But here's the funny thing. Every single time, before the date, I reach for that mug. I don't drink from it. I just see it, pause, and remind myself I've survived worse than small talk with a stranger. I've survived hope that turned into hurt, and I'm still here. That mug has become a weird little talisman, not of love lost, but of me. Standing back up, of mornings after, and the silence between texts, and the stillness that follows a heart cracking open. I think I'll keep it, just not for him. Last week, I finally did it. I took the mug off the shelf. Not to drink from it, not yet, but to wash it It had collected a soft layer of dust, the kind that settles when something hasn't moved in a while. Kind of poetic, right? Like it had been holding its breath, waiting for me to remember it existed beyond its weight. I washed it slowly. No music, no distractions, just warm water, a little citrus soap, and my hands moving in quiet circles over the ceramic. The crack on the side has gotten longer, like a wrinkle deepening with age. But it held. It still holds. I dried it gently with a good dish towel, the one I usually save for guests I never invite. And then I placed it on the kitchen table. Not in the cupboard, not back on the shelf. Just there in plain sight. And I stared at it for a while, like I was waiting for something to shift inside me, waiting for it to whisper, or shatter, or disappear. But it didn't. It was just a cup, with some history, with some weight, but no longer sacred. And that's what broke me. Just a little. Because for so long, I thought if I let go of him, I'd be letting go of meaning. That without that tether to a time when I was loved, however flawed the love was, I'd float off into nothing. But I didn't. Turns out, I stayed. I'm still here, still me. Still someone who sings along to songs while washing dishes. Still someone who buys strawberries and forgets them in the back of the fridge. Still someone who talks to herself while folding laundry. Still someone who wants deeply, awkwardly, hopefully to be known again. And maybe that's the most terrifying part of healing. Not the grief, not the emptiness, but the desire that remains. Because it means I haven't closed the door. It means I'm willing, someday, to open it again. I had a dream recently. One of those weird, vivid ones that stick around long after you wake. In the dream, I was walking through a flea market, and I saw him. Not as he is now, not the curated Instagram version, but as he was. Hoodie, smirk, messy hair. The way his fingers curled around a coffee cup. He looked at me, and I smiled. Not the kind of smile that says, I want you back, but the kind that says, remember. Then I turned away. And in dream logic, I kept walking, straight into a crowd of people whose faces I couldn't make out, but they felt warm, safe, like possibility. I woke up before I reached them. Typical, but even half asleep. I knew what it meant. The past isn't chasing me anymore. It's not calling me back, and I don't need to answer. I stood at the sink that morning and looked at the mug again. This time, I didn't touch it, didn't even move it, just nodded at it. A thank you, maybe, for what it taught me, for holding the weight when I couldn't, for being a reminder of love that was real, even if it didn't last, but mostly a goodbye. Not the loud kind, not the tearful, dramatic, throw it out the window kind, just a soft one that happens in the quiet of a Sunday morning, with coffee brewing, sunlight warming the floor, and the slow, steady hum of a life being rebuilt cup by cup, breath by breath. You know that moment when you walk into a room and forget why you came in? That's what healing feels like sometimes. You find yourself standing in the middle of your own life, blinking at the walls, wondering what you were so angry about, what you were so sad over, and why everything feels just a little softer now. That happened to me last Tuesday. I opened the hallway closet, stared at the stacked boxes, and genuinely forgot which one held the old photos of us. And instead of searching, I closed the door, not out of fear, not out of grief, but because I didn't need to remember right then. There's a freedom in that, in not chasing every memory down, in not yanking every thread to see what unravels. There's power in letting the past stay folded where it is, not buried, just folded, like a blanket you don't need right now, but might someday, and that's okay. This morning, I did something wild. I danced in the kitchen. Not metaphorically, not quietly, full on, barefoot, in my pajamas dancing. I spilled some coffee. I laughed at myself. I twirled even though my knee still makes that weird click. I played the song he used to hate just to remind myself I like it. And for a moment, I didn't feel like someone who'd been left. I felt like someone still here, still capable of joy, still capable of being. That's the thing no one tells you about losing someone who's still alive. You don't just mourn them. You mourn who you were when they saw you, who you tried to be, who you thought they might love enough to stay. And when they go, they don't just take themselves, they take your mirror. You have to build a new one. One glance at a time. I'm still doing that. Still figuring out who I am without the filter of his gaze. Some days, I feel like a smudge. Other days, a fingerprint. But today I feel like a window. Still fragile, still flawed, but letting the light in again. I've started writing things down, little things. Not the dramatic stuff. Not the long confessions or breakup anthems. Just snippets. The way the light falls on my bookshelf at 4 p.m. The smell of cinnamon from the neighbor's apartment. The way my laugh sounds different when no one's around to hear it. I don't know if I'll share them. Maybe I will. Maybe they'll just stay tucked in the back of a drawer until someone else finds them and wonders what kind of person needed to write about shadows and sweaters and Sunday silence. But that's the point, isn't it? To notice things again? To care? In spite of everything. I've been walking more, just around the block, sometimes twice. There's this one tree, gnarled, kind of ugly, that blooms only on one side. I used to hate it. Now, I think it's kind of perfect. A little broken, a little showy. Trying its best anyway. A lot like me. The truth is, I still think of him sometimes. Not with longing. Not even with sadness. More like curiosity. Like you'd feel seeing your old house on Google Maps. Familiar, but not yours anymore. I hope he's okay. I hope he eats better now. Gets enough sleep. Laughs at dumb jokes. Learns how to fold a fitted sheet. Even though I'm convinced no one really can. I don't need to know how he's doing. But I hope quietly, gently, that he's better. And me, I'm learning how to be mine again. Not his, not theirs, not anyone else's projection. Just mine. My routines, my bad dance moves, my stubborn hope. It's strange, isn't it? How we rebuild not with big, bold gestures, but with small kindnesses to ourselves. A clean mug, a walk outside, a hand on our own shoulder saying, "It's okay. You're okay. You're still here." So, yeah, that's where I'm at. And maybe you are too. Maybe you're holding a cracked cup and wondering if it's still worth keeping. Maybe you're listening to a song that used to hurt and finding it doesn't sting the same. Maybe you're learning slowly, clumsily, bravely, how to be yours again. If so, I'm proud of you, even if we've never met. So, if you made it here, thank you. Truly. It's strange, isn't it? How we end up together like this, me talking into a microphone past midnight. You may be lying on your side, earbuds in, letting the hum of someone else's story slow your thoughts down. That's what I wanted tonight. Not resolution, not drama, just company. Sometimes the healing doesn't come in big waves. It comes like this, in the quiet between breaths, in the stillness of your room, in the gentle decision to keep listening, even when everything inside you feels loud. I don't have any great wisdom to leave you with, no grand revelation, but I do know this. You don't need to be okay right away. You don't need to rush your becoming. You don't have to feel strong every morning. just to earn your rest at night. You can carry your ache like a lantern instead of a burden. You can sit beside your grief instead of running from it. You can miss someone and still move forward. You can lose someone and still find yourself. I've learned that the hard way. And if all I can do now is sit beside you for a few minutes, help you feel a little less alone in your own tangle of memory and hope and what ifs, then that's enough for me. So tonight, let the silence be soft instead of sharp. Let the past be a story, not a trap. Let your breath slow. You made it here. That counts. Sleep well, friend. You're not alone in the dark.